Hello, good morning. I am at the department now and I am the only person in the department. There is a general strike going on. All the employees in the department are on strike and I am the sole employee here on duty. That's the head of the department. I am monarch of all I survey. So I think this is the right time to give you this second short lecture, right? So, yeah, I hope you have seen those two videos I sent. Okay, one on human migration from Africa, out of Africa, and the other on the Indo-European family of languages. All right. So let's look at those two videos. Okay. So the first video on human migration out of Africa, that is actually the beginning, the roots from where we start. So Karl Marx said that to be radical is to grasp things by the root. Okay, so to understand anything, to understand the history of languages, you have to go right back to the roots, or right down to the roots, so to say. So what are the roots? Yeah. So I think I remember telling you that Homo Sapiens, our species, originated in Africa. Yeah, many hundreds of thousands of years ago, roughly between 1.5 and 2 million years ago. Okay, and of course, science says that we evolved from the apes. Okay, a group of animals which are also called primates. Okay, we are the primary species. A little bit of arrogance in that statement, but yes, as far as intelligence is concerned, as far as the understanding of the universe is concerned, okay, we are the primary species. Yes. Okay, so why did Homo sapiens, who evolved in Africa, migrate out of Africa? You remember the video. It shows outward radiating lines from Africa. So this happened around 70,000 years ago, between 70,000 and 1 lakh or 100,000 years ago. Why? That's because the climate of Africa became rather inhospitable for human beings. Rains became scant. There were droughts, continuous periods of droughts, and the climate generally became colder. Okay, so only when it's hot there is rain. So there was less rain. Less rain would mean less vegetation. Okay, less vegetation would mean less number of animals which fed on vegetation. Okay, and less number of animals meant that the hunter-gatherers, human beings were all hunter-gatherers, they didn't cultivate anything as we do now. There was no agriculture. So the hunter-gatherers found it very difficult to survive. There were few animals to hunt. Okay, and starvation and hunger deaths stared at them. Okay, so they had no option except to migrate out of Africa in search of food, in search for a better habitat to survive. So they migrated out of Africa. So remember, these Homo sapiens were our true ancestors. And all people living on this planet today are descended from those people who migrated out of Africa, right? And people in some parts of the world, Europe for example, have some small mixture of genetic material from other hominids, meaning human-like species, other human-like species. One of them is called the Neanderthal man, who lived in Europe some up to 30 to 35,000 years ago. Then they went extinct. Okay, because they could not withstand the onslaught of the superior Homo sapiens. Because scientists say these Neanderthal people in Europe did not have language. Language is vital. Yeah. So here we are at the very roots of our topic. So the Neanderthal people did not have language. They were highly intelligent, yes. Their skeletons have been discovered and their brains show more volume than contemporary Homo sapiens. But even if you are intelligent, without language you cannot do anything. So naturally you cannot fight against another species which has language. Homo sapiens had language. So this is another story. So most Europeans have about 2% of their genetic material derived from the Neanderthal people who went extinct. People in other parts of the world, like us, do not have this admixture of genetic material as Europeans have. All right. So back in Africa, at the beginning of the Ice Age, there was an ice age which set in around this time, 70,000 years ago, when the climate suddenly went cold and waters in the oceans began freezing. Okay, sea levels dropped. Okay, so human beings, Homo sapiens, who migrated out of Africa, went in different directions. The first wave, you can look at the video again, okay, at leisure. The first wave of human beings left Africa and came in an arched line across the Arabian desert, which was at that time not a desert, and passed through India and went right up to Australia. Yeah. So this is one wave. So as you can guess, the language that this first wave of people spoke is believed to be the ancestor of the language spoken by Australian Aborigines. And remember, the people who went along this route did not all reach Australia. Some of them stayed behind. So their relatives are found in various parts of Asia, including India. And the people in the Andaman Islands today, when the sea levels rose again, okay, after the end of the Ice Age, many land routes were submerged by water. And the people who lived in these islands became isolated. They could not go anywhere else. Okay, and many of them did not develop the technology of using sea vessels, boats or ships. So they were stuck in these islands. So the people of Andaman it is said, belong to this first wave. And the people in South India, okay, they passed through India, okay, and many people in South India have genetic material from this first wave of people who migrated through India. We, Malayalis, for example, have at least 20% of our genetic material from these early people. The Dravidians who came later to South India belong to another wave of people who came from Africa, who first migrated to the Mediterranean region, and from there migrated to India. So most of our blood is Dravidian. Okay, we have admixture of blood from the earliest people who came to India and went right up to Australia. We also have admixture of blood from the next wave of people who came to India from Central Asia, whom we call the Aryans. Okay, roughly we call the Aryans. In fact, this last wave of migration represents the migration of the Indo-European family of languages to India. Now I think the picture is clear. Okay, the earliest migration starting from 70,000 years ago. The next wave of migration roughly around 10 to 15,000 years ago, the Dravidian migration. And the third migration to India starting around 5 to 6,000 years ago. Okay, these are the three major groups of people who came to India. There are other groups of people who came later from China and other parts of Southeast Asia. Okay, so remember that all these people are of the same family. We call them by different names because they came at different periods of time. Remember, and by the time they came to India, their characteristics had changed. So we know that the people of Africa are dark in color, sub-Saharan Africa, people who live in the hottest parts of Africa. But as they migrated out of Africa, their complexion changed. Some of them became fairer, some of them developed a yellow tint, etc., etc. So the complexion of people should not confuse you. They are the same people. We are the same people. We all came from Africa. We are all Africans. Okay. So this is the picture that the first video gives you. Different groups of people migrating at different points of time. And remember also that as people migrated out of Africa, their language also changed. Their languages also changed. So I remember telling you that all human languages originated from a language which was spoken in the southeastern part of Africa, near the Kalahari Desert. Okay, today. So people still live there. And linguists and anthropologists say that the language spoken in this area today, it is called Khoisa, Khoisa. You can look up the net. So Khoisa, they say, is a direct descendant of the language that was spoken in that area 70,000 years ago, which was also the parent language for all languages in the world, right? Okay. So this would mean that all languages of the world have evolved from this single language. Obviously, because when people migrated out of Africa, they had language, which means all the people, the ancestors of all the people living in the world spoke this primeval language. Remember the biblical story of the Tower of Babel. All the people in the world were working together to build a tower to heaven, and God became jealous. He feared that they would attack him in his heaven, so he confused their languages. So instead of one language, they started speaking in several languages. Okay. This is just a story, okay, in the Bible. But this story is actually true in a sense, because all human languages evolved from one language spoken in Africa. Okay, this is more or less established now. So as they migrated to different parts of the world, their languages changed. Different language families originated. Okay, so it's sometimes very hard to believe that a language like English and a language like Malayalam are related. In fact, they are, but the relationship is very distant. Okay, the relationship is closer between languages which belong to the same family, which have evolved at some point in time. So Dravidian languages form one family. Even within what we call the Indo-European languages. Indo-European languages are a big family, okay, consisting of 9 groups, okay, out of which one group is the Indo-Aryan family, which consists of languages like Hindi, Gujarati, Bangla, Punjabi, Marathi, Nepali, etc. Some 10 to 15 major languages. Okay, so they form one branch of the Indo-European family. And there are a number of words in these languages which show the affinity of these languages to languages like English or French or Russian, which are spoken in Europe. Alright, so now you get the idea. Okay, the migration of people from different parts of the world. The migration of people from Africa in the first place, and then their migration to all parts of the world. They are settling down in various parts of the world. So the migration continued for a long time, As we know, the people living in the two continents of America, South and North America, reached there only about 10 to 12,000 years ago. They reached these two continents through Central Asia and Siberia, the eastern end of Russia. And from Siberia, they walked across a land mass which was called Beringia, where you now have the Bering Strait, a small stretch of sea. At that time, it was not a sea at all. It was land. Because as I told you, sea levels were very low, because of the ice age. And people could simply walk across. Afterwards, after they crossed over to America, this small stretch of land became submerged in water. So you have the Bering Strait now, where you once had a land mass called Beringia. You can find out all these from the net. So the migration of people into various parts of the world continued until very recently. Now, of course, people cannot migrate. You need a passport or a visa. You can't simply migrate to a place. You can't simply walk into a territory. All territory in the world have now become independent countries. But once upon a time, the earth was free to walk and run across. There were no political boundaries. So countries and empires developed only around 5,000 years ago. And even at those times, the borders were not strictly maintained. They did not have the kind of vigilance, the kind of border guards that you have today, who examine your passport or visa. Alright? So this is roughly the history of human migration across the world. And one group of people, as we know, went to Europe from Africa. Settled there, fought with the Neanderthal hominids, exterminated them, did away with them. So there are no more Neanderthals living in the world, although they have supplied some genetic material, admixture of genetic material to people living in Europe. So even then, all the people who migrated to Europe did not speak the Indo-European language. There were many other families in Europe. There are still language families in Europe which have no direct link with the Indo-European family. They evolved separately. For example, a language spoken by about 500,000 people in France and Spain called Basque, Basque. Basque is not an Indo-European language, although it is surrounded by people who speak Indo-European languages like French or Spanish. Basque is not an Indo-European language. The language spoken in a country called Hungary, in an East European country called Hungary, called Magyar, Magyar, is also not an Indo-European language. The language spoken in Finland, which is a European country, bordering Sweden, it's the language called Finnish. Finnish is also not an Indo-European language. Alright? So this means that Indo-European family was only one of the language families in Europe. Just one. There were many other. There were, of course, apart from these two, there were other families like Etruscan, Etruscan, a language family which existed in parts of Italy and surrounding areas. So what happened? The speakers of the Indo-European family were more powerful than their neighbors. So remember again, all these language families have evolved from that one language I told you about, which originated in Africa. Only thing is they evolved separately, therefore they became different from one another. So the Indo-European family, the people who spoke Indo-European languages were more powerful than their neighbors. Okay. With the result, they conquered most areas, subjugated people who spoke other languages, with the result that only a few non-Indo-European languages have survived and exist today, like Basque or Magyar or Finnish. Other languages spoken in Europe have disappeared. Yeah. So this is the picture that you get of the Indo-European family of languages. We are at the roots of their origin, the origin of the Indo-European family of languages. So like what Mark said, we are digging deep to the roots to find out where this family originated. Okay. So, excuse me. So if you look up the net, you will find various theories about where the Indo-European family was first found. Okay. So this is based on evidence, some kind of evidence, like written evidence or the evidence of languages spoken in that area, still spoken in that area, whether you can find traces of Indo-European words, etc. So one theory about which is, I think, today accepted, more or less accepted, is that Indo-European family first appeared in the Asian part of modern Turkey. It was called Anatolia. So if you look at the video again, you can see the territory. It's called Anatolia. Anatolia was the first place in the planet on Earth where the Indo-European language was heard first. Indo-European language was used. Okay. So from this territory in modern Turkey, the Indo-European family spread both west and east. Yes. And other subgroups of the Indo-European family evolved. So you can also look at the time scale in the video. You can see, for example, 5,000 years ago, you have the parent Indo-European language. Then gradually, as you can see, as the scale moves, other families appear. So one of the first families that appeared was the Indo-Iranian family. Yeah. In fact, the first written text in the Indo-European language is not Homer's epic, is not Iliad or Odyssey, but the Rig Veda. The Rig Veda, which was composed around 1500 BC, that is around 3,500 years ago, was the first written text in the Indo-European language. Okay, it was written later, but it was the first literary text. It was first orally composed. So Rig Veda, you must remember, is the first written text in any Indo-European language. So the branch of the Indo-European family which originated in modern Iran and India, that's why it's called the Indo-Iranian family. Okay, which later split into two, the Indic or Indian, and the Iranian family. So one of the languages which is very close to Hindi is Farsi, which is spoken in Iran. So if you have seen Iranian films, if you listen carefully, you can find words which are used in Hindi. For example, the film Dozan, meaning two women in the Farsi language. If you listen carefully, Farsi sounds very much like Hindi. Yeah, because they are very close. They are languages within the same subfamily called the Indo-Iranian. So this group is probably the first to make its appearance. Then, of course, there is the Baltic family, of which Russian is a member. Russian, Russian, Bulgarian, Czechoslovakian, Czech, actually, not Czechoslovakian, Czech, Slovenian, all those languages which are spoken in, most of which are spoken in Eastern Europe. Baltic family. Further west to that you can find the Greek family. Only one language remains in the family. There were other minor languages. Greek family, Albanian family, which has Albanian and a few other languages. Germanic family, which consists of English, German, Dutch, and a number of other languages, Swedish, Finnish. The Latin or Italic family, which consists of Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Romanian, Catalan, and so on. The Celtic family, which consists of modern Irish, Welsh, etc. Small family now, which at one time was a big family. Okay. So all these families, there are in all about 8 families. The families which are found in the West are called Kendam languages. You'll learn about it later. Kendam, because the Kendam is the name for 100 in Latin. The families which are found to the east are called Satam languages. Satam is actually Shatam, a Sanskrit word for 100. Okay, so Kendam and Satam. Eastern group is called Kendam, the western group is called Satam. So besides Indo-Iranian, you have the Baltic family, which is also listed as a Satam language, Eastern language. You have the Albanian family, which is also a Satam language, Eastern. And you have 1 or 2 small families which do not exist now. Okay, such as a family in which remnants of whose language was found in China. Okay, and another which was found in Central Asia. 2 minor families which have gone extinct. Okay, so this is the picture that you have. Okay, and look at the development. Look at, as the scale moves, you can see the scale moving at the bottom. It gives you the exact, almost the exact time in which various languages appeared. So the parent language in the subfamily appears earlier, as you can see. For example, Germanic appears around 2500 years ago. But the members of this family, the modern members of this family, appear only later. So when did English appear as a language? Yeah, all these are interesting questions. When can you first locate English? So we have this language called English making its appearance only in around 500 AD, 1500 years ago. Okay, and other languages like Dutch, modern German, Flemish, etc. There are 6 or 7 major languages. Swedish, Norwegian. All these are Germanic languages. Okay, Germanic languages which appear at various times in the first millennium of the modern era. Okay, 500 for English. Other languages have different times of appearance. Okay, so this appearance is true for our language also, Malayalam. When did Malayalam originate as a language? Linguists say around 1000 AD, around 1000 years ago. Okay, Tamil originated a little earlier. Kannada and Malayalam were the last languages, Dravidian languages to appear. Okay, Telugu originated a little earlier, and as I pointed out in my last lecture, there is a Dravidian language spoken in Pakistan and Afghanistan in the border areas called Brahvi or Brahvi. which originated much earlier. Okay, so the Indo-European family is such a vast family, I think about 40% of the people in the world today speak Indo-European languages. Okay, in India you have about 130 crore people or 1300 million people, out of whom around 900,000 people or 90 crore people speak Indo-European languages. They are big families. Bangla is spoken by something like 22 to 24 crore people. Half of them in Bengal, West Bengal, and the other half in Bangladesh. Hindi is spoken by still more number of people, around 60 crores. So all these are big languages in terms of the number of speakers. So the Indo-European family is today the largest language family in the world. Okay, consisting of several branches and sub-branches. So Germanic is one branch, but Germanic again is divided into 3 branches: West Germanic, North Germanic, and East Germanic, like this. So all families are divided into groups. The Indian family has many sub-branches. Bangla, Oriya, and Assamese belong to one sub-family, and also the language spoken in Sri Lanka, Sinhala. Hindi, Punjabi, Marathi, etc. belong to one group. Okay, Gujarati, Sindhi, etc. like that. There are different sub-families. Okay, so in all, I think roughly there would be not less than 100 languages in the Indo-European family. Okay, now the second video you saw gives you an idea about how various families how and when and where the various sub-families in the Indo-European group family of languages originated, and how the individual languages in these families, okay, English, French, Spanish, German, Hindi, Bangla, all these languages in the family originated at what time. So have a look at those 2 videos again, and when we meet again for a regular class on next Tuesday, remember these things which I discussed. And I want thinking students, not just students who simply listen to what I say, but students who think, students who go to the net to find out more about these things, students who pause to think about language, its variety, its points of origin. All these are interesting subjects. Okay, അപ്പോൾ ഇതൊക്കെ നിങ്ങൾ അന്വേഷിച്ച് അറിയും എന്ന് തന്നെയാണ് എൻ്റെ വിശ്വാസം. അപ്പോൾ ശരിക്ക് വായിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ, ശരിക്ക് നെറ്റിൽ പോയി നോക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ ഇത് വളരെ രസകരമായ ഒരു വിഷയമാണ്. Very fascinating subject. Reads like a story, reads like a good novel, or unfolds like an interesting film. Okay, bye-bye. See you on Tuesday.